Hello history buffs, it's Nick Hodges here. Whilst I'm busy researching Rome, I thought that a good way to help pass the time would be with a couple of interesting videos. Some of you may recall that back in 2016, I went to Ireland to work on a series of podcasts for history to promote the hit TV show Vikings. During my time on set, I had the amazing opportunity to interview the cast and the crew, and each of these conversations were recorded for the podcasts, but with history's blessing, I thought he might like to listen to some of my favourite ones. So in this video, I'll be speaking to the actors about the real history the show is based on, as well as go into detail about their characters. Now, I highly recommend that you watch the show Vikings first before listening to the interviews to avoid spoilers. For those of you who have, please enjoy part 1, and in the upcoming next part, we'll be speaking to the crew. If you wish to listen to the original podcast in their entirety, then I left a link in the description box below. Hope you enjoy.
My name is Alexander Ludwig, and I play Björn. No, I'm just kidding. I'm Gustav Skarsgård. I'm Gustav Skarsgård, and I play Floki in Vikings.
I'm Alexander Ludwig, the real one, and I play Björn in Vikings.
Okay, so you guys have been working together for a few years now, and have spent a lot of time together on set. So what's that been like?
It's family. It really is. We've been through so much together over such a long period of time, and also because we're away from home. You know, we're here, stuck in the muck of Wicklow Mountains. So all we have is each other, and there are no divas because there's no room for that. You know, when you're in the mud, we're really like family. I mean, Alexander's like a brother to me.
Yeah, Gustav and I mean, that's the only way to describe it. It's so much closer than just friends. It's closer to lovers. And
you shouldn't reveal that.
Sorry, honey.
So Gustav, you're actually one of the few Scandinavians on the set as part of the crew. And coming from that, what's been your impression on how Vikings has handled your people's history?
Well, I think I've kind of, even from the start, I kind of have a Scandinavian veto, you know, on the show. If there's something I come across in the script that I feel like that's a bit, you know, Michael is always open for those kind of comments. He's always, you know, encouraging of that. But there are still things, you know, slipping through the nets.
Do you want to share what slips through?
I mean, apart from the timeline, that's very off, you know, in terms of like, because we just, you know, we want to tell these amazing stories, and we just have to compromise on the accuracy of that and the timeline. Yeah, it's more the geography. Like, I don't really know where this Kattegat is. Kattegat is the name of a sea, not a place, and they refer to Sweden, even though there was no Sweden at this time. If Kattegat is not Sweden, not Denmark, and not Norway, then what is it? You know, so it's a bit confusing, and also like shooting the stuff in Uppsala, and everybody who's been to Uppsala knows that it's very flat, and when you come there in the series, it's like the fjords of Uppsala. There are no such things. Yeah. So that all that is kind of, yeah, not very accurate.
No.
But you know, it's okay. It's doable.
When Bjorn spares Rollo, is it because he still loves him or still needs him?
It's a little of both, actually. Yeah. It's political, absolutely, because you know Bjorn has become a very smart leader, and he's leading with his head, not with his heart. So he won't make emotional decisions. He sits back and, you know, he doesn't let his emotions control the outcome of the situation. And with Rollo, he wants nothing more than to, at that moment, kill him. Yeah. For everything he's done, you know, because it's just ridiculous. I mean, it's like history has consistently repeated itself with Rollo, and
yeah. So he's thinking that he has to watch his back when he returns to the Frankish coast at some point.
Yeah, and I don't know exactly what you saw. Did you see like when he gets thrown overboard?
He's thrown overboard, and he's like back is against the keel of the boat.
Yeah, so that's a form of torture that the Vikings used, and I felt that it was imperative that we showed that, because I said there's no way we would let Rollo get away with all that without doing anything. Exactly. So I think that there is a form of dominance he has to establish, and he does. So he's like, at any moment I could kill you, I'm deciding to keep you alive.
Yeah, I mean, like, was he debating like giving the order to sail? Because would that break Rollo's back? Is that how the torture would work?
Yeah. Well, no. What would happen is what would happen was, so they throw the person overboard and they'd actually drag them underneath the boat, and the barnacles from that are attached to the bottom of the boat would rip his back open. And the moment that you're talking about is a moment of whether or not to continue pulling him up the other side or to leave him there to die. And there's a moment where Bjorn has to control his own emotion and go, no, it's smarter to bring him back up, even though, because he's the Duke of Normandy. It's they control a part of the sea that's imperative for them, because that's as far as their known world really goes.
How do you read Rollo's journey in the season?
I think it all started when Rollo goes to see the seer. That's when he makes this decision. In season 3, he sits down with the seer, and he's at the point of suicide. He's got nothing left. Siggy's left him. He feels ugly and betrayed in the inside by Ragnar, and there is no reason for him to stay in Kattegat anymore. If he hadn't have gone to the seer and hadn't heard the words that came out of the seer's mouth, which is, if you only knew Rollo, you'd be dancing naked on the sand, he would have ended his life. I think that moment at the end of season 3 where Bjorn asks for someone to stay, and Rollo, almost raises his hand and makes it no question that he's the one that's going to stay. It's because there's nothing left for him in Kattegat anymore, and he's holding on to just these words that the seer said, and he has no idea what's going to happen, but he just knows that his fate doesn't lie with Ragnar anymore. I don't think he realizes that it's necessarily going to mean that he has to betray his brother and fight his brother again. It's more about just he has to find some kind of destiny and some kind of worth in Paris. And by God, it's an uphill struggle from the first episode. He's come into Paris, he's had to marry a princess who would rather vomit than go anywhere near him. and he forgets that all the people of Paris, the last time they saw him, he was raiding and berserking the streets of Paris as the crazy bear. But I think knowing what he's given up from the Vikings, he has to make this work. He can't just go back to Ragnar with his tail between his legs like he did the first time. He has to learn some sort of etiquette to survive in the French court, and he has to make alliances with the king. And what's very complicated about the French court is that they're far more backstabbing, they're far more Machiavellian than the Vikings.
Absolutely.
And he's just loyal to the end, as the way he's been brought up as a Viking. He won't stab people in the back. He holds his heart on his sleeve when it comes to King Charles. And I think what's interesting is the fans and the viewer, it kind of almost expects at the last minute for there to be some kind of plan that involves Ragnar and Rollo, that Rollo's going to, at the last minute, open the back door to Paris and let Ragnar in. But no, he's a far more cerebral Rollo. He's a thinker. He's thought his plan through. No one knows Ragnar better than Rollo, and I think he second-guesses him at every opportunity. He's outplanned him, he's outmaneuvered him, he's outfought him. And this is the beginning of the Rollo that we know from history. And this is all that anyone really knows. And there's lots of artifacts and historical writing on Rollo from that point onwards, but no one really knows the Rollo of old, the Viking Rollo. So it was more about investing in being a pagan and the Viking ways at the beginning of the journey. But we decided we were just going to get the character Rollo in our hand and just smash him on the floor into 1,000 pieces and then use season 1 to season 4 to piece him back together to eventually come to the point of the Rollo that people know from history. Rather than the prince to a pauper, it's almost been a pauper to a prince. It's been an interesting discovery to start him off with such a base pagan Neanderthal almost, and to create this Duke of Normandy, the man in history who's responsible for the lineage of William the Conqueror. He's the great grandfather of William the Conqueror, the very first Norman. And when I went and researched him in Rouen, there's lots of Viking swords and artifacts that have been dredged from the River Seine, and they can tell that they had winter camps all along the Seine. So he wasn't obviously the only one. So we created this Viking camp that Rollo was in charge of until Ragnar came back, and then Rollo decimates them all.
Rollo! You have betrayed your own kind! But we shall be revenged! Ragnar will revenge us!
But you know, like I said, nobody really knows what happened in history, and if you carry on with season 4, you'll realise that Rollo makes a certain speech that insinuates what is to come when it concerns the Normans.
Okay.
So Michael had his plan, and he just had a little different spin than I had on it.
I want to make you all an offer. Anyone from our homelands who wants good, rich lands to farm can come and live in my kingdom. There will always be a part of Francia, which is a part of us.
From the very beginning, there was one Swedish proverb which, abbreviated into English, it basically means that everyone wants to be loved, and if they can't be loved, they'll be admired, and if they can't find admiration, then they'll be feared, and if they can't be feared, then they'll move to being hated. Everyone just wants to fit in, they want to be recognised for something, and that's kind of the journey I said Rollo was going on, and this is where he is now. He's tried to be loved, he's tried to be admired, whether he tried to be loved by Lagertha, whether he tried to be admired by his father and his brother, and he wanted to be feared, which is what he kind of created in Kattegat as this ruthless warrior, and that didn't work either, so now he's prepared to be hated by a certain amount of people in order to find love and fame with a different society of people.
Hail Caesar! Hail Caesar! Deus Charist Paris.
You don't take this the wrong way, but I don't exactly trust every single thing that comes out of his mouth.
I think that's a very wise decision.
Yeah.
Michael once said to me, there's a whole period in the show where everything Egbert said was a lie and also true.
How does
Like
that work?
both at the same time. It's like he was, because he could look at you and say something, and almost everything had a double meaning, and that's a lot of fun to play. You can see there's a man who's got a lot of scope.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of vision, and he's a different kind of leader and thinker. He's a politician. He's not just a warrior king. And I think that gave this room to go a long way with this character in terms of what's he willing to do in order to get what he wants.
There's a great bit in episode 5 when King Egbert is in the church and he's giving a confession to God, and this is when he's locked all the doors and he's completely alone.
Lord, you know me for a sinner, and I think you have already decided to cast me out into the darkness, like a fallen angel, to suffer in purgatory or the fires of hell for all eternity. Heaven, am I not a man like other men? And yet, I would sup with the devil if he would show me how to achieve my earthly goals. Your kingdom, Lord, as you have said, is not of this world, but my kingdom is.
Do you think that's the only time he's been 100% honest in that scene? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's going to be interesting to hear your response. Maybe we'll get to talk again later in the year. But, you know, the journey of season 4 for me is an incredible journey of taking this character kind of as far as I possibly can imagine taking him. And I think it's wonderful that at that point, here's a man who's got a very big, clear vision and has very few scruples about what he has to do to succeed. He's free to do what he wants. He can do the most horrendous things and somehow be unscathed, untouched, and it's all in the name of his one aim and goal. But I think there comes a point where there's a line that gets crossed, and it's like once you've crossed that line, you kind of know, now I'm not actually going to get away with this. There's going to be damage to my soul. I've betrayed so many people. I've been so unjust that you can't just be free and have no conscience about it. And I think he crosses this line and then gets to this point where he knows that if he was to be this God-fearing person and take Athelstan's example and then he would never be able to do what he's going to do. So he's actually turns to God and is totally honest, like you said.
For me, that's one of the moments that stand out the most with Egbert. Like, did you prepare a lot for that scene?
A lot. I can't tell you how much preparation went into that. But then it was myself and Helen Shaver, the director, because she wanted to understand how to do it, how to shoot it, how to act it, and we talked. I can't tell you how many hours. Just understanding, is that out loud? How interior is it? What's his emotional state within it? How does he walk? You know what I mean? So there was a lot of preparation and talk. And in the end, this was a moment where this man is going, enough. I have to take my stand. This is my choice. This is my life. And if it means going to hell, so be it.
Well, that's why he's such an interesting character.
I think so, too. I mean, I've loved every minute of playing this part. I have to say, it's been extraordinary.
He's also quite a funny character as well.
Yeah.
There's a bit, I can't remember it, sometime in season 4 when Queen Quentrith...
Yes, Queen Quentrith.
I need to know that I can trust you, that you will do what you promised me.
Why would you doubt me? You've heard me speak plainly and in public.
I doubt you for one reason only, and that is that you and I are somewhat alike.
Then do not judge yourself too harshly.
It's great. No, he's very witty. And he's very ironic and self-aware, and there's very few people he can really relate to because there aren't any equals. That's why he's so drawn to Ragnar, and it's almost like just drawn towards the brilliance of the man, because I think Ragnar possesses a quality that Egbert doesn't quite have, which is more of an intuitive leadership, and two great minds and slightly different approaches, but of the same ilk. You realize you've got two extraordinary thinkers, very different backgrounds, but they have the same spark of genius, if you like, and they recognize that in each other.
Well, he is definitely the smartest character in Wessex, it feels like.
Yeah. Well, it seems in most of England at that point.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Well, he outwits everybody.
Do you think you're a good man?
Yes. I think so. Are you a good man?
Yes. I think so. Are you corrupt?
Oh, yes. Are you?
Mm-hmm.
We have a lot together throughout season 4, and that relationship goes on quite an interesting journey. But I mean, his relationship with his son is also like awful. I mean,
makes me wonder if he really is his son, because he's nothing like his dad at all.
Nothing like his dad. And I mean, one of the first things he does with his son is send him out as a hostage, and then he's constantly sending him out to battle, knowing that he might never come back. He's willing to sacrifice him, and yet he trusts him as a general and a warrior, but he's so kind of dismissive and even abusive of who Aethelwulf is. And yet in this season we're finding a place where we actually find some
common ground.
Yeah, well, some understanding. There's some closure that we're managing to find, which was amazing to try and track that journey. And Mo's an amazing actor, so it's been a joy to sort of plot all that with him and then find these, because there was a certain point where I just turned to Mo and I said, I don't think there's ever going to be another scene where I can abuse you again. We can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
We've reached a point where you have to confront me. And Michael wrote that. And I hope this scene comes out well, but in the latter part of season 4, it's a very powerful scene.
You loved Ethelstan? Right. You love Ragnar Lothbrok. You love Judith? Right. You love me, Father? Do you? Could
Because if you do, I want you to say so. I need you to say so. Please. Please.
I guess my first question is, what can we expect in season 4 for Aethelwulf himself?
We appear in episode 2, Kill the Queen, and Aethelwulf is kind of on equal footing with his dad and is really trying to earn the right of being a prince or a commander to the soldiers. And there's this fantastic battle where he's sent out to Mercia. There's a queen at the top of the tower. He has to get there. And without any dialogue, without any lines, I think it shows more about the character and that you've ever seen about the character, of how far he's willing to go, how unrelenting he can be, and how brave the character is, really. So it's amazing what Michael had wrote, what you can show about a character through action scenes, that it means something. It's not just you're cutting through waves and waves of soldiers like a knife through butter. You know, it means something. You can expect to see him as a commander, as a guy who leads armies. You can expect to see a couple of times of Egbert sending him out there, probably expecting him to die and not come back. You can expect to see him go further afield. He travels to Rome with young Alfred, and Alfred is beginning to really become a big player in this show. Aethelwulf has taken him under his wing, and I suppose for half the first season, anyway, you're not too sure how he feels about that. You will find out eventually. A lot more things are happening and developing within the mind and the character of Aethelwulf now, at the end of season 3 and throughout season 4. He's making up his own mind about things, and he's a good commander. I think that's really important in the show, that the side of the English aren't just these grunts that get killed. You see that there's a lot of brave soldiers go out there and they're smart and they have tactics, and we can see that the Vikings are going to have a hard battle against the English when they do come over.
Yeah, so if you don't mind, I just want to go back a little bit. You mentioned that really cool scene we got to rescue Queen Quentrith. I know there's a bit of a bond forming between them. What was it like working with Amy Bailey, who plays Quentrith?
Oh, she was so brilliant. Amy Bailey was just magnificent. She was a couple of months pregnant in real life filming those scenes, so she is just badass. She cares about the character so much. And then when Aethelwulf does go up, I think she has a line, "What kept you so long?" Which is just perfect as Quentrith, you know. She brings so much fun to the table. It was lovely to work with Amy as Quentrith in those few episodes, and have a small bit of a love triangle, or that Aethelwulf has a newfound sense of freedom in a way, that he's not just relying on religion and being the puppet, that he comes out of his shell a little bit.
So do you think this relationship developing with Quentrith is changing him? Because like the way I see it, before this, his character was defined by his relationship with other characters like Judith and especially his father, Egbert.
Yeah, definitely. I think that there's someone else there for Aethelwulf to be with in those episodes. He becomes more aware of what his father's like. He finds out about Judith and his father. I think it hurts him deep down that he's been such a fool for so long, you know.
Right.
He's not cut from the same block as Egbert is, but one day down the line he'll become a powerful king, so he believes, you know.
Yeah, like one of the things I noticed in Vikings are the father and son relationships, whether it be with the Vikings or the Saxons. Like, it does seem to be one of the major themes in Vikings, right?
That's a good question. At its heart, the main thing I love about Vikings is a show essentially about fathers and sons and about lineage and about legacy. Linus has just been incredible as Egbert. You know, he's so dynamic and you don't really know which way he's thinking, but you like the guy because he's so damn smart and funny. But me and Linus have become really good buddies. I've learned a lot from him. It's good to remember that this show is about fathers and sons, or mothers and daughters. And
yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Aside from working with great actors and amazing scripts and all of that stuff, part of the fun has got to be the big battle sequences, right? I mean, like, what was that like shooting?
Well, I was dying for a good battle. I love those battle scenes. I love them so. They're my favourite things about the show, to be honest. Being on the horses, and Tony Doyle is our horse master out here. He gave me a crash course the first week I came out here. I was on it for a week, and now I can ride around with one hand in that, and lead charges, but also when you get Richard Ryan and Franklin Henson, the main stunties out here, the stunt coordinators, they do just the most fantastic work on the action scenes in Vikings. And between the writing of Michael and the practical work from Richard and Franklin's guys, they really make those battle scenes count. But I've always been proud about having to do my own writing, getting to do my own stunts. I actually wrote Michael an email. I made a suggestion that I'd love a battle or a fight scene between me and just one other guy. And he got back to me and said, I'm already covering that. I've already got that. And he sent me that attack on the tower in Mercia. So I made a few suggestions. There's a moment in the fight where the key is there and they have the key in hand. And I said, well, bite the guy's hand. You bite it. Show how ugly the fight would really get beat up. I love getting thrown around and beat up as Aethelwulf, because so far he's been coming back and giving as good as he gets. But we had a lot of Lucozade and sugar and chocolate cakes, because you have to go full energy for those battle scenes. For wide or close, you give it everything. Even if it's a close-up, you give as much energy all the time. So you find yourself, your body is excited and the adrenaline's going. To film a battle scene, it can be tough, but it's never a case of that one person over there. It's all about that actor over there. It's hugely collaborative. You know, it's all a team. It's definitely a team show. Yeah, it's great. I'm really proud to be part of it.
Do you think Ivar's actions reflect on Floki's teachings?
I think they do to a point, and then I think he actually takes it even further in terms of craziness and darkness. And I think when Floki's left, when Floki leaves him, I think he's like, you'll be fine. I'm proud of you. You'll keep doing your thing. But if he was to stay around for longer, I'm not sure he would concur of his actions anymore.
Because there's one moment that when Ivar was a little boy and he killed the other kid with the axe, like that must have just jarred Floki a little bit.
It did, because then he saw what he was capable of.
Yeah.
You know, he saw what this kid was capable of, and he was baffled and amazed and scared, I think, all at once.
Because I was kind of wondering if it's like that subplot is turning to almost like a Frankenstein sort of, monster, like, what have I created? That sort of thing.
If Floki wouldn't have been busy, it might have, but he's not around for that.
Of course, yeah. Well, here's a fun one. How is it for Floki to hammer in the nails into King Aeller's hands during the Blood Eagle?
It was lovely.
Yeah.
I think he certainly enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Especially his punchline before that.
Yeah, what was it?
I've been told your god was a carpenter. And guess what? So am I. Cut to nails in hands.
I've been told your god is a carpenter. And guess what? So am I.